Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country. All right, we're back. Episode 2 here. Chris, how's it been going?
Good. Do you think every episode we're going to be like episode 7, episode 28?
If we want to keep really good track, we could do that. I think once the episode numbers get high enough, it's just we're going to get burnt out.
I'm just having a little bit of fun. Like I've had minimal experience sitting in front of a mic and having conversations, but there's an element of I'm having fun. So,
Well, of course, if it wasn't fun, we wouldn't do it. But
what are we talking about today?
So today, I think we're gonna start a little mini series. It's gonna be 4 episodes, and the name of the series is gonna be called the 4 W's. And really, the 4 W's is kind of the classic why, what, where, and when. And these are all questions that we need to ask ourselves as hunters, and you need to ask yourself personally about hunting. So this first episode, we're going to be talking about why should you hunt, or why do we hunt? And I think we're going to have some great conversation about this, because I think every person maybe has a slightly different reason to hunt. I think there's a lot of overlapping answers more than likely, but I think everyone's reason's a little bit different. So I want to.
What's your reason? Let's get in. Like,
see, I was going to ask you first, but my reason for hunting, I have a lot of reasons to hunt. I love hunting for the aspect of camaraderie, being with other guys, spending time with my friends, with my bros. I really I love hunting for the food aspect. I think if there wasn't a food aspect to it, to me, hunting would be a little bit shallow. No judgment to the people that like to hunt for trophy animals and antlers. I mean, that's super fun stuff too. I love that part of it. However, doing that and not bringing meat home, or just like wasting the meat, to me it just seems so empty. I don't know if you can kind of agree with that. But then the other part, I love the challenge. Every species kind of presents a different challenge and a different style of hunting, and it's so much fun. I love challenging myself, and there's always the challenge of either filling a tag for that year or getting a bigger animal than the one you got last year. There's so many ways that you can challenge yourself each and every season. So those are some of the main ones for me. What about you?
You touched on a little bit of the challenge. I think it's stripping away the luxury. I mean, we won the lottery being born in America, to an intact family in this day and age. We have running water, toilets, like
Yeah.
our grocery stores are full. We can have a debate on how nutritious those grocery stores are, but we live in a very privileged time, and to look at the challenge and unplugging from all the demands of life, from not running away from it, but like a mini detox to kind of purify your mind and declutter your soul and push your body. You can do those in other ways, but you definitely can do those with hunting. So
yeah, it's kind of nice because with hunting, you can kind of wrap all of those things into one tight little package,
yeah, and it's I think a really deep space of stewardship. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you would mostly refer to it often as conservation. You know me, I lean towards more that I want to have conversations about character, legacy, honor, right versus wrong, and all that debate. And that's part of like going with your bros, and your guys or a group, or you go to hunt camp. There's lots of different versions of that. Whether you're on East Coast, West Coast, South, North, or in different places around the world. But um, yeah, for me, it's when I get out on a hillside, there is the challenge of bringing home the quote unquote trophy. I think as I've gotten further along in hunts and expanding what I what I can and have done out there, I like the uniqueness factor of every hunt is a little bit different, but also the we'll just say quote unquote trophy. I don't know if I need the just some monster, and I don't know if I expect that. I am in that stewardship space, man. It's a real honor to get to do this, to be healthy enough, to make a good enough living to support my family, and then go do this specifically. This is where my passion and fun, looking forward to every fall or different seasons of hunts. But yeah, I think it's stewardship for me, and all the fun with the stories. We touched on stories, being able to look back and have these memories. And we've talked a little bit being out there. We're talking about the why. There's some different types of fun. There's like the really sporadic excitement fun. There's the expectation fun, and then there's what we've started to tap into, which every hunter has to if you've hunted long enough, the miserable fun, where it's
Type
like
type
complete,
3 fun is what I like to call it.
like it is the miserable 10 plus miles through the back country. You have way too much on your back. It's raining, it's cold, just start adding the elements, and it's tearing your legs apart. And you're like, I gotta stop, or your shoulders are sore. But you look back on that with your brothers or friends and that hunt camp, and that was like one of the best memories, and you learned so much from it. And then
Mhm.
that's where I'll end with that question, is just it's character building. You learn about yourself, you learn about the conversations you have, the life conversations, and if you're intentional enough, you go into a hunt wanting to spend time with your friends to talk about like deeper issues in life or things going on. And that's where the detox part, there's nothing else demanding your time. You're able to sit around a fire and be quiet or respond or not respond, or it's just really nice. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think I like what you talked about with, how you learn about yourself really quickly. I think you learn your limits really fast in hunting. It doesn't matter whether you're, out in the backcountry doing a mountain hunt, or if you're just sitting in a tree stand, back east, but it's really cold. You learn very quickly what your
how long
limits
do I
are.
want to be out here?
Yep,
How cold are my fingers going to get?
and you also learn how much past your limit you're willing to push, depending on what your
That's true.
goals are. That's another thing I
Completely
love
true.
about hunting, or one of the reasons why I do it. I can learn and push myself to new limits, and it's really self improvement in a way. Um, but
It also takes you places like, you know, to the next kind of thought that I know you have. We have a little agenda here, which is, plan to succeed. But adventure and travel, and that's for me, Pete, because you came to me and said I want to go out west, and we had a couple of years under our belts, and we had talked about expanding this space of hunting. But because of this friendship and this passion that we share, it's also allowed me now to see more of the country. And I've already seen a ton of the country, but I'm seeing it in a new way.
mhm.
You're seeing it through a new lens where many people just do not hike out into the middle of nowhere and sleep on the ground trying to keep warm. And that is just special.
It is. I this just brought up a thought. I find myself anytime I'm driving anywhere, as soon as I leave like city limits and I get out into some sort of countryside, I am scanning the entire countryside for the entire drive, looking at places like, oh, that'd be a good spot to hit. Like,
I do the
oh,
same.
that'd be a good ditch for pheasants.
Let me ask this: Does your uh, wife have the same challenge that I've experienced with mine, where I'll be like, "Hey, look, babe, there's a huge deer right down there." And she will take like 8 seconds to kind of look up and, and respond as we're driving. And by the time she's looking up, it's like way behind us because I'm
Yep.
going, 70, 65, 70 miles an hour down the highway.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You kind of develop something called hunter eyes over time, I think. Like I can be driving and I can see a deer out in a field like a mile and a half away from the road.
Yep.
But then I go
Yep.
into my refrigerator and I'm trying to find the ketchup and it's right in front of me and I can't see it. It's
And then our wives look at us like the little puppy dog sideways head, and they're like, "You couldn't find this?" I'm like, "I didn't see
and we
it."
and we say the same thing when they can't see a buck a mile and a half off the road.
It's fun. I
It
love being
is.
married. It's like the best. But yeah, yeah, talk to me about travel and the experiences in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken us quite a few places. Now, you and I have been hunting out of Minnesota or outside of Minnesota for about, was it 5 years now? I
And
believe it's five
Nebraska
years.
was, I think, 5 years
2020.
ago.
Yeah, so 5 years now. It's
For
taken
those,
us
we our Nebraska was our first
quote unquote
outside of
Western hunt.
Minnesota, yeah, Western hunt where
Yeah.
we grabbed our bows and went into some public. It was really fun and really informative. Um,
We failed a
but yeah,
lot.
I don't. We
Good
had
good
some
kind of failure
very
though.
great opportunities on that hunt, but tapping into like the adventure and the challenge. For those of you who are wondering, like, maybe you have hunted in your state for quite some time, and maybe it's a family farm, or you got permission somewhere, and you want to do something else. Fear will the fear of the unknown can be so paralytic. Is that the right terminology?
Yeah.
Um, it can paralyze you. It's like where I know that I would deal more with that if we didn't have this friendship.
Hmm.
I thought about this maybe yesterday, the day before when I was driving. I was like, man, would I have gotten into Western hunting if I wasn't friends with you? And I honestly thought probably not. And um that's not for a lack of like desire, but friendships and the passions that you share in those friendships fuel obviously what you are going to undertake or endeavor or what you want to do, and then
Yeah.
it grows, so
Hmm.
naturally it should expand. And yeah, so 5 years ago, Nebraska.
Yep, 5 years ago, Nebraska. Then the next year, we went to Wyoming and hunted antelope. Um, then the year after that, we went back to Wyoming, slightly different area, but pretty close to where we'd hunted antelope, and we hunted mule deer. Had a great trip. Um, and I should say for antelope, we had a great trip as well. We'd never done anything like that. I mean, we had hunted deer back home. We'd archery hunted mule deer in Nebraska, but then antelope. I mean, completely, completely different
And you're
deal.
talking, for those of you listening, you're talking about two guys that I think we jumped on Onyx. We're Googling, what do you do to understand boundary lines, and um, where do you stay? How do you get access?
Hmm.
You're applying to units or depending on the tag or what you're hunting. But again, there can be fear there. So having someone to do it with, like if you want to get into that, again, just start asking some of your friends, "Hey, you want to go out and do this hunt?" Or you can look for obviously outfitters. You can look for guides and
Hmm.
different trips, and there's raffles to get into. There's lots of opportunity. You can go to bird farms.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, we so getting into that, I just want to talk to the listener. You can do it. It just requires a
Absolutely.
little bit of research, like ready, set, hunt. Right? Like, what do I need? What kind of gear do I need to get by? Um, there's a lot of experts out there. There's a lot of great gear out there. Just start doing some research, have some fun. You can ask us questions, like comment or send us an email or something like that
Yeah.
too on any of those topics. But
The
yeah, I'm
benefit
gonna
of
be
being
quiet again.
alive. Oh, sorry. I was going to say the benefit of being alive right now in this point in time is there is more information and resources out there than ever before.
Hmm.
Um, while Some of that information might not be the best or might be outdated, just kind of because the hunting world is kind of ever evolving and changing. You can, if you look hard enough, you will find information.
Mhm.
But we're going to talk about that whole topic in a future episode, or probably several future episodes. But yeah, kind of back to the travel aspect of it. I mean, it's taken us across the country. This past fall, it took us to Montana. We did a duck hunt in Montana last year as well, which was really fun. And then I'm going back to Montana this spring. We're building points in Colorado and in South Dakota. I mean, running the gambit. Yeah, it's a lot of Western states, but there's opportunities everywhere around the
Mhm.
country.
Yep. Is there where's the best place or your most favorite place you've gone so far?
Wyoming.
Why?
I don't know, man. There's something special about Wyoming. I just love it. The entire eastern half of the state is essentially just one big prairie, which is kind of the same as Montana for the most part. But there's just so much game, and there's Wyoming, if I remember correctly, is the least populated state in the lower 48. And so it's just such there's so much wide open landscape. I just love it. It's just such a cool state.
It is
Um
fun.
but and also I really like this one beer from Wyoming called Speed Goat. So and you could only get it in Wyoming. So that
Which
plays a part.
my brother-in-law has now dubbed me.
The
My
Speed Goat.
nickname is Speed Goat, I
Yeah.
guess. So
Yeah. What about
you don't
you?
get to choose your nicknames, I
Yeah.
guess.
What's been your favorite place that hunting's brought you?
Oh, I'm a give me the biggest mountain you can.
Yeah.
Like the majesticness of being when you think Montana or Yellowstone or you see these shows or you see some of these hunts on YouTube and they're in the middle of nowhere. Now, keep in mind they've probably got pack mules or horses or something going on to get way in there with the amount of gear that you need to bring. Or maybe that's pretty generalized comment. We've hiked pretty deep into
Mhm.
some areas and it's been pretty excruciating. Um, but really, really rewarding. And I love the peaks and the snowtop covered mountains and deep pines. And so, but I do appreciate Wyoming. I love sitting up on a ridge, and you got your rangefinder at 310 yards or something. You've belly crawled. I've belly crawled in, I have a
Mhm.
couple hundred yards on turkeys and different things, but being able to have prepared and know where you're shooting and getting to share that moment, that that shot. Um, is there a better place on the backdrop of like mountainous terrain with a river or creek running through? I don't know.
I don't know. There's a lot of places still that I would like to go to, so it's hard. I can't do an all time ranking because there's places I haven't been yet. I mean, I've
Hmm.
been to Alaska, not hunting, but I have a feeling if I hunt in Alaska, that might top the list too. That's hopefully in the plans for us in the
Give
future.
me your top three dream destination hunts that you have not experienced yet, or maybe you have experienced one of them.
So I'm going to do a destination, and I'm going to pair it probably with a game animal, um, just because that kind of determines where it brings you. Number one is probably Alaska moose. I mean, it speaks for itself. The scenery that's there, and there's so many different types of moose hunts you can do. You can do, fly in, drop off. You can do like a river float. There's all sorts of different moose hunts you can do. So that brings a lot of opportunity to see different places. Number two, probably mountain goat in Kodiak, Alaska. You have to get pretty high up, and from my time in Kodiak, I actually did see mountain goats up on the peaks of those mountains. And actually, funny story, there's a golf course in Kodiak, Alaska, and I'm not a golfer, but that's one of the places I've golfed. I'm terrible, but I got to golf in one of the most scenic golf courses I've ever seen. You're in this you're on this golf course and you're surrounded by whitecap mountains. And if you look high enough up there, just below the snow line, you can see little white specks. It's mountain goats just covering covering the peaks of those mountains. So that would be pretty cool. And then for number three, man, That's number 3. I feel like it might be Rocky Mountain elk in the San Jose Mountains.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just kind of a
There's some good ones.
kind of like
So
an epic
Alaska, you got
legendary
on.
place. Alaska, I got an itch for Alaska, but it just takes so much time and money to get there. So,
Yeah, I think you. I'm a. I want to do that red stag
in New Zealand.
or or the New Zealand thing. Yeah, I saw a hunt. I think I don't know if it was Remy. Somebody was up there hunting those things, and it was just kind of a cross between that mule deer elk space, and there's like a majesticness about I don't know their coat that they got on them, and little mystique. And then you hit it for sure in Alaska river float. You you might get one of the guys in your group like me, and I come up with really fun, not very practical, waste of time ideas to apply to a hunt. And I'm like, let's bring our shotguns on this hunt, and it'll be like an archery hunt, but I'll be like, we could shoot doves. This last one when we were going up for uh, elk, I'm like, let's bring fishing poles. I'll pack one in. And I want to catch some trout up there. Like that. That's I guess that's part of just like being out there. I want to just
Yeah.
experience it all. But you talked about the river float, doing a moose hunt, fishing and hunting all the way down 10-day backcountry float hunt. That's pretty seared in my mind.
Hmm.
And then man, I got the worst kind of itch for the ankle high, knee high water timber duck hunt where
Yeah.
the ducks are just like falling, was it the Dumb and Dumber line, like the birds of Capistrano or whatever it is. Um, but you see some of these hunts, and it can be any really duck hunt that, maybe it's North Dakota or something like that, but
Sure.
where they are just circling and just coming in.
Hmm.
Geese can be like that too. Shooting some geese are really fun.
See, I used
But
big game on all mine. Whenever I think of dream hunts, my brain just goes directly to big game. But there's so many cool other types of hunts all around the country that I would love to do. I want to do it all. Let's be honest. But
and your top list will change. Like
oh
you'll
yeah.
go on it and you might be like, well, I'll go try aoudad, or I want to do a hog hunt,
Hmm.
down in the south, anything like that. I want to do some deep sea fishing. I get invited almost every year to this uh, deep sea fishing trip off out of San Diego and then down across Mexico. And I think I'm an idiot now because I've been invited so times, and a few times it was like you can come for free, just bring your like video camera and just film people catching fish,
Yeah.
and you can come for free. And I'm just like, so well, I got to change that. I
Well,
definitely
you've
got
had
to
a lot
change
of
that because
opportunities to do a lot of things though too through refuge. So it's
well, yeah, I mean,
you
yeah,
can't say yes
it's
to everything.
no, you do have to pick and choose. That's something about traveling too. Like you got a budget, for those of you that are like myself. You know, single family income, which is a conscious decision. And it's awesome because my wife gets to stay home and be with our kids, and that's
Hmm.
just how we're gonna play this season of life. So I got to be a little more conscious about picking and choosing. So it's
Yep.
still a TBD on that bear hunt. We'll see if the wife lets me do a last minute uh, with you, Pete, going out there. But
Sure.
um, yeah, do you have any? You had talked about what are some of the experiences that hunting has brought you,
Mm.
and do you got a story on that experience?
I don't know if I have a specific story, but the experiences that you get in hunting, I just don't feel are experiences that you really get anything else in life. Would you agree with that?
So far, I would love to do so many different things, from technology to serving the military to, I mean, there's just so many different directions you can go, and
Yeah.
I'm very blessed to have like sampled a lot of directions. I've played some college basketball, worked on my pilot's license, been to film school, made a movie, worked in branding, advertising. Like I'm really kind of a hodgepodge all over the place. And I feel like I'm really equally passionate about all of those things, just in the different like seasons and when things present themselves. Um, I wish I would have even done more because I had capacity to do so much more when you're single and you're in your
Yeah,
youth, or you're like, I've done missions work or anything. You can travel the world, and um, especially like the idea of apprenticeship or mentorship, walking up to the people that you admire or the things that you want to put like the feather in your hat for learning more about, and being like, can I just serve you for a year? Like,
right.
can I just be around you and just absorb? Um, that's kind of what hunting is brought me in this space, just in our relationship. And from the guys that I've looked up to, my uncles and other people in my life growing up, hunting was always just a very intimate relationship place.
Sure.
And that's um taking time out of life because it passes so quickly, and you're able to laugh. And I'm thinking of when we were duck hunting, and this is a story, I'll throw this in here. But went out really cold day, was on the boat with my uncle. My cousin came, and we'd come into shore, and it's like cold, like ice on the water, cold.
Can we name the cousin? Because I think we'll probably have him on the podcast at some point.
Cousin Jordan, we'll just say cousin Jordan. Um, and this, I believe, I have to own, probably completely. This is my fault. Um, my uncle was in the center of the boat, and my cousin Jordan was on the end of the boat, and we had come into shore.
As
I
in
was
the
on the front.
and yeah, the back. You mean right?
Yeah,
He was on the back.
I'm like, cool. I'm stepping off, and obviously the boat loses some weight because you get off. Not much because I'm a thin guy, but it lost enough, and I got off, and I just said, "Hey, I'm gonna pull a little bit closer in, just stay sitting." And my uncle is looking at me because he's already standing, and he sits back down. But when he sits down, I saw him sit down, and then I went to heave, and I pulled, and right then my cousin Jordan stood up on the back of the boat.
Because he wasn't paying attention, right?
He, I
Or
don't know. It's probably just a combination of things, but this is part of stories with hunting, the memories you make, even in the worst ways. And he went straight back into the water holding two shotguns. One, he was holding my uncle's shotgun and his, and was
practicing good
so
firearm
upset.
safety.
Was so upset. Like, yeah, I mean, the guns were unloaded. We were like coming in, we're done duck hunting, all that stuff. But he he loses his phone. He just got like a new phone the day before or something like that. But the week before, or like a week and a half before, he was out on the lake, and his phone went into the lake as well and lost that phone. So it was, not only was he freezing cold because it was below freezing for sure. But he was mad. He was steaming. Um, but I can say that uh my relationship with my cousin in tumultuous seasons, dating somebody or job changes or just figuring out life, college, whatever it was, we had some, uh, deeper debates and soul searching kind of arguments at times. And those
Hmm.
are okay. And like, I welcome them as long as they're, relatively, you got to stay healthy with them. But, um, because we've had bonding experiences like that on going hunting, and a lot of those conversations at that time happened on hunting, just story wise, we're able to look back, and it's almost like searing your relationship, like a stronger bond.
Yeah.
Well, it's not almost, it is. Um, and we can just giggle about stuff like that. And so, yeah, that for me, that's a story, and that's an experience that
Story that comes
hunting
to
has brought
mind
me.
for me, that includes you, is when we were in Wyoming 2 years ago hunting mule deer, and we got some deer on the ground. As soon as we got to that deer, it started raining, and it was pitch black out because I shot that deer probably with, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of light left,
Hmm.
give or take. It was pitch black, and we're out in the middle of nowhere.
I
Like, there's
didn't
not.
know it. I didn't know it could get so dark.
Oh, I know. I mean,
Like,
because there's no
it
town.
was crazy dark.
There was no
It was
town probably within 50 miles.
and it was for sure the cloud cover because it's raining, right? And so
Yeah.
it's not even overcast. It was like full cloud cover, no moon, no star,
I
nothing.
mean, it was pitch black. And that pack out was something else because we were in some really rugged terrain, a lot of really deep gullies, and then very steep, like badland type ridges coming directly out of those little gullies. And they're
Mhm.
the only way to get back to our camp, which was what, it was about 2 miles away, wasn't it?
It was up, down, up, down. Like
You just had to climb up,
the
like
way the
straight up and
veins,
over
the way the veins in the topography was, we would have had to go at least 4 to 5 miles more
to go
to get
around.
to go around. So and that's kind of we tend to put our mind to something. We're like, well, this is going to suck, but it's going to save us worse agony if we go the other way, because you are hiking and you are packing all the meat on your back, and
Hmm.
it's not like you're avoiding terrain by going around.
Right. Yeah. So that was, to me, that was one heck of an experience navigating in the pitch black to our camp, which was 2 miles away, and doing it all by lamplight in rugged terrain. And we hadn't really been very
You said lamplight, and I got a picture of you having like a lantern.
handheld lantern,
You mean headlamp light?
like a lighthouse keeper.
Yeah.
So I
Hey
mean,
there, Sonny. Where you be?
to me that was one heck of a experience that I'll remember forever. Um,
That trip was gnarly because that psycho storm
mhm.
came in for like 30 minutes,
Those it's those
destroyed our.
it's those prairie storms that just come out of nowhere, and they just ravage the area, and then they're gone almost as fast as they came.
It was just nuts. It was
Hmm.
nuts. It was the rain was moving left to right. It wasn't even coming down.
Mm, yeah.
And then our tent got busted, and
And that's
because
a big bummer. It snapped our carbon fiber center pole. That's how strong those winds got. They got to like 70 miles an hour. And I mean, that tent is durable, but it did not stand up against those winds.
we happened to hike back the 4.5 miles packing out and got to the the truck just as the storm was like, hello. And
Yeah.
it literally came out of nowhere. It was like, what's going on? And it started pouring. We were beat tired because we had to cross that river as well. So
Hmm.
we would take the boots off and the shoes and
Get
stuff like
down your
that, and
skivvies.
you go across. But yeah, we get back and it's just the truck is shaking. And then it was gone in like 35 minutes. And
Hmm.
then you know, hiked back, or you hiked back out with Drew,
To go get the tent to go see what the damage was.
and packed up a busted tent. And that was
uh,
that.
yep. But
That was a good trip though. My dad shot his first buck.
that was really
Um,
cool. Yeah.
super memorable.
Hmm. But I guess pack outs, I guess that kind of brings us, it's a little smooth transition here. Kind of brings us to another reason why we hunt, and that's the food. I kind of touched on it a little bit for myself. Um, but I mean, what is it about the food, Chris? Like, what is the food portion a big deal to you, or why is the food aspect so important?
Well, if you haven't had your head in the sand in the last like 6-ish years, um, with, I mean, 2020 just culturally, and COVID-19, and George Floyd and everything that, as a human, you were just exposed to, across social platforms and in the news. Um, Food has come up in a very big way,
Hmm.
and chemicals, organic on a package means a couple different things now. It's not, you know, back to the stewardship and being truthful and honest, and advocating for people. I love the word advocate. Uh, I want what's best for people. It's
Yeah.
really important to me. And that's not exerting my, like, this is the best thing. You have to do this. That's not what I'm saying. It's having an open, honest, truthful space, non hostile space where you can like look at facts and look at, uh, reaching an understanding for what is actually taking place. Because to be honest, ate like Twinkies and you name it. I grew up in the 90s and 2000s and had zebra cake, cheese bread, and was it a surge
Surge. Oh my
soda, like
goodness.
that was like a lunch regiment through junior high, right?
Yep.
And God bless the human body that can somehow take those things as a teenager and process through just absurd amounts of candy and popcorn and Oreos and just all the things that you love as a kid.
How's the body take it now there, Chris?
Well, I'm still going strong. Um, but that just sets the setting to I want to know what's going on and I don't want somebody to, for lack of a better term, just like lie to me or BS me. Like, and I think people are now across at least America, for sure the world too. We're just all asking what's true. What are you telling me? Is it true? Where's your source? Can you cite it?
Hmm.
And having an opinion, people I think in a lot of ways are just kind of over. There's an authenticity coming back to conversation that I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And especially in this food space, specifically hunting, like um you can go out and that this animal has been living, you know, in this egg field or around this stream or whatnot. That it's way out in the middle of nowhere. Now that doesn't this isn't even controversial, but that doesn't even get away from like cloud seeding or chemtrails and different things like that because they're spraying all over. It's like not just pesticides in a field over your corn, but you're looking at like what's in our water, fluoride, different things. How does it affect the body? The things that we've believed for a long time that are just okay. We're starting to realize, oh, that actually has a ton of aluminum in it, or
Hmm.
things that are affecting the human body at a cellular level, and that's not what the world for the majority of history has ever experienced. This is all like brand new space. So um, even our understanding of pharmaceutical drugs and natural remedies for different things. I often wonder how much technology and understanding and wisdom has been lost from like Native American cultures and ancient cultures to
Hmm.
use plants and roots, which there are some very smart people out there that hold that. And I take vitamins and oregano and different things like that, especially if I'm getting sick. And there's some really important things that we've made life changes in our family specifically for like, okay, what's our diet going to be? What are we going to feed our kids? Sugar imbalances, like let's get away from color dyes and different things like that,
Yeah.
proteins. So yeah, meats and game is a way to ethically source your freezer and refrigerator and get into the cast iron pan. And
Yeah.
we do the grass fed beef from our uncle, and farm free range farm eggs, that we just know how the animals are being treated, how things are coming to the table, fresh fruits and vegetables. My wife's father is amazing. He's like Mr. McGregor the gardener. So he's got like everything, and you've had pickles and different things like that, and that's really special.
Hmm.
But that's my answer.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to know what's going in my body, because as I'm aging and getting older, and I'm not a teenager anymore. Energy plays a big deal, and I can get migraines once in a while. What kind of coffee am I drinking? Does the coffee have mold in it? If you know anything about coffee,
Yeah.
a lot of coffee has mold in it, and um, yeah, I'm just trying to be a learner, and
Sure.
I want to know what other people know, but I don't have a lot of time for just opinions, or like, oh, we're just gonna do that because we're gonna do that. Um, I love you, but I'm a deep guy. I like deep conversations, and I want to talk through conflicts. And we've had lots of hours in the car talking, and
Yep.
so that's for me. I know you love knowing where food comes from as well, but talk to me a little bit about that space as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I mean, I've got nothing. I don't see anything wrong with having a nice juicy steak from a cow, from a beef cow. But to me, there's something really special about about wild game, and yeah, knowing where it came from, but also harvesting it yourself, inserting yourself kind of into that
Mm,
process of field to table, I think is something really, really special because
it's a
you have
good
to
point.
take responsibility for the way that animal dies. You're responsible for that animal dying ethically, dying quick, because when animals die a longer, slower death, there's more stress hormones that are released out into the body that can really impact flavor and tenderness of the meat, that kind of stuff. And so for me, I really enjoy being a part of that process, knowing exactly where that animal came from, or, the general vicinity, knowing that animal lived a good life more than likely. It's not raised in a pen, it's not raised in a cage,
Yeah.
it's not pumped full of antibiotics or
Mhm.
whatever else livestock is given now. I know exactly where the animal came from, and I know that it's the healthiest meat I can possibly source in the world. Unless there is some debate about, if you're eating, say, a whitetail in farm country, ag land. There's been a lot of research coming out about pesticides and how pesticides can make its way into your food, and everyone has trace pesticides in their bloodstream, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, there is that point of debate. I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not going to get into it. But it's still probably a healthier source of protein or meat than a lot of the farm or factory farm raised meat that
Yeah,
that
because
we
just
consume
like
in a grocery store.
the feed that like just look at like pigs, uh, the stuff that they can eat
Yeah.
is they can pretty much eat a car, and
Yep. And as long as their last meal before they're killed is grass, then they can be considered grass fed.
yeah, and
that
like
is that is a fact.
I'm not, I don't want to, I really don't want to do too much rabbit holing because I love to rabbit hole,
Hmm.
but I've seen I can't verify and I won't claim to know exactly what I'm talking about in the sense of like sourcing it, but I my eyes have seen places of processing meat or the things that are fed. Like I'm watching a dude in overalls walk into a pen and he's dumping like straight plastic. I don't know if you've seen like the plastic ice cream. They're recycling plastic and making ice cream, and now people can't tell. Like,
No.
go Google it. I'm not a crazy. I just with so much technology happening and AI and all this stuff. Again, we're back to what is true. To know that you can go out on the hillside in the middle of nowhere, and like you said, you tapped into that, harvesting to do it yourself, and like even peel back the hide and cut, watch the fat lines, and you're harvesting out quarters of this animal, and then you're getting to the ribs and then the tender back straps, or I'm uh, the neck meat. You are looking. Uh, it is an honor.
It is.
It's an honor to know that this animal that God put on this earth lived its life, and it's not going to live for like 100 years. By the way, the lifespans of these animals are much shorter. But um, to pack that up and bring it home and then process it, trim fat, and then we render fat too. Like my wife makes beef or like tallow.
Hmm.
We use it for lotion. You put in some essential oils in there, and it's like the best thing. It doesn't have like tons of chemicals. Through the load, there's so much stuff in just everything. So even for what you're putting on your skin, which is your largest like uh, organ in your body, that's really important,
Yeah.
especially with like little kids. We've just been asking a lot of those questions, like, will they have a rash or something like that?
Sure.
What should we do?
Well,
Well, there's, yeah,
well, and the cool thing too is that if you're a guy that if your thing is you only want to hunt ducks and that's all you hunt, great. You're going to eat a lot of duck. There's different kind of ducks and they have different flavors, but I think that kind of brings us into the variety of meat that you can experience if you are um a varied hunter. So you and I hunt a lot of different species. One of for multiple reasons.
no one has made prepared better wild game meat than my uncle. My uncle Paul prepares the best duck meat, and it is like filet mignon.
and I would love for him to show me how to do it because I've prepared duck. I've made some okay recipes, but man, I've struggled with duck. I've excelled with other things, but I've struggled with duck. And
Duck is
everyone
so easy to
says,
screw up.
it's like one of the best game meats, and I'm like, man, I must be really bad at this then.
Well, from what I know, you gotta cook it rare. You have to marinate it a certain way, and then obviously when you get it on the smoker or the grill, it is a shorter cooking process. And I'm telling you, every Christmas, um, he lays out the duck, and I kid you not, you would think it's prime rib.
Hmm.
It is like the best prime rib you've ever had.
Yeah.
It's no muddy flavor, or
Hmm.
it's so fantastic. So,
But
um,
yeah, just that
maybe
variety of or game meats though. It's like antelope tastes different than a whitetail, which tastes different than a mule deer.
I
I
can make a
love
mean antelope burger though.
I love the different varieties of meat you can get, and they all have different flavors. It's just super cool. Like if you're like a foodie or a food connoisseur,
Hmm.
it's just so fun to source different types of red meat or even white meat. You know, if you're hunting turkeys or pheasants or grouse or whatever, it's just there's so much opportunity out there and so much variety. I just love filling my freezer with different
Yeah,
things. It's so much fun. But so here's
and
a
to make it, that's the thing. Preparing it, just like anything else, you have to understand like how to do it
yeah.
and to do a good job. And that's what you want to share, like getting to the table with your family, because you don't. I've known a lot of people that are like, that's real. It's so dry. I
It's like
can't eat
shoe
it.
leather.
It's like shoe leather. like, um, and they're not wrong, because that's the experience that has come across their table
Hmm.
or in the way that it's been prepared. And it's not even, I wouldn't even say it's like their fault. Um, people are amazing. And the fact that my uncle can cook this duck so well, you could go to a 5-star restaurant and pay, $50 for the plate of duck, and you'd be like, that was amazing.
Hmm.
That's how good it is. So, um, but you were going to touch on
Well,
sharing with
I was
others.
gonna ask you a question. So,
Ooh.
what are some of your favorite things to make with wild game? Like, what are your yeah? What's your favorite wild game recipe that kind of or maybe you just like your go to?
Well, uh, I've gotten better at making my own jerky, smoking my own jerky.
Hmm.
So taking, coming out of the freezer, I try to cut it before it's fully thawed. I like where it's still frozen, like semi-frozen, and then you marinate. You've been marinating that, or you get into that. Um, we do pickle juice, so we get a lot of those pickles from my wife's father, and it sounds so weird, but it provides this amazing, not overwhelming, just touch of pickle flavor at the end of like some really good salt and pepper meat.
Hmm.
Really good. And then I think we really eat a lot. We love breakfast in this house, and it's primarily like meat and eggs.
Yep.
That is just protein, and then we throw in, either avocados, fresh fruits, or different things like that. We're really trying to strip uh like even grains out of breakfast.
Sure.
So we do a lot of sausage or brats or different things like that when we process. That can get expensive, but I really enjoy some wild rice, onion, uh, you know, venison brats. Those have
Yeah.
turned out really well for me. What about you?
Um, I mean, to be honest, in some ways, I'm kind of a purist. I really love just a good venison steak or antelope steak. Actually, antelope is probably my favorite wild game meat so
I
far.
forgot to say the poppers,
Oh,
but
the
you can you
jalapeno
can you can
poppers.
you can say the poppers. I'll
Sure.
let you steal that one.
Yeah, that's also one of our favorites to make. Pretty much every year it's Super Bowl. So every year, early in the fall, September 1st in Minnesota is Dove Opener. Historically, we've done pretty well. This past year, we uh, we cleaned house. We did really good. So we usually get a lot of dove breasts, and if you have ever seen a dove, they're not a huge bird, and so the breast that you get from them is maybe I don't know the
They're
size,
the size. They're the size of your thumbs. Maybe a
maybe
touch
maybe
bigger.
That's
They're
probably
about your
not too
thumbs.
far off actually. One dove breast is probably about the size of your thumb. So one of the go-to one of the go-to recipes that probably almost every dove hunter has experienced is jalapeno poppers. You cut a jalapeno and
Peter, what is a jalapeno popper? Would you explain it and give me a visual?
you cut a whole jalapeno in half.
Ooh,
You
spicy.
stem it. If you want it spicy, you leave the seeds in. If you don't want it to be super spicy, you take the seeds out. Then you take a spoonful of cream cheese, put that on the inside of the jalapeno. On top of that, you're going to put one dove breast, and you're going to wrap the whole thing in thick cut bacon. Thick cut bacon. Thin
That's the
cut,
important.
thin cut is
That's the
bull.
important part.
I don't even
Yeah.
know why they sell thin cut bacon. Thick cut bacon, and then you just throw it on the grill or smoker until that dove is just about rare. Because believe it or not, dove breasts are actually a red meat, and they come out in that. Wait till that bacon's like nice and crispy, not too crispy so it falls apart, but just crispy enough. Oh man, it is hard
And
to
you've
beat
you've
that.
sweet you've put some sweetener on there in the past. Like what have haven't you?
I don't think so. No,
Like a caramelized date with bacon. Is Haven't we done
that
that
wasn't
before?
me. Maybe you
Oh,
had a
I'm thinking
different
of something
jalapeno
else.
popper, but no, that
I'm
wasn't
thinking
me.
something else.
But
That might have been out. That might have been out in Montana.
yeah, that's a great recipe. But yeah, just a good steak is really hard to beat. We do a lot of roasts, like different kinds of pot roasts in our house. Um, Really great way to use some of that tougher meat that you get from some animals like shoulder cuts or maybe even neck meat. Neck can make a really good roast if you're not throwing it in the grinder to make sausage. But
Mhm.
yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed cooking with wild game. You have to cook with it a little different. You can't approach it the exact same as beef, or other farm raised animals, just because wild game is naturally very lean. It doesn't really have the same fat content that your pigs and your cows and your chickens have. So you do have to cook a little different with it and get creative with different types of fats that you add in. But man, the flavors it's completely different, and I find it super fun to cook with wild game.
Hmm. Let's jump to camaraderie tradition. Kind of. We touched a little bit on it,
Yeah. So maybe we just
but
skip to the kind of the tradition part of it.
yeah. I mean, we touched a little bit on spending time with friends and the guys and gals you hunt with, and
Hmm.
the experiences that you have create strong bonds. And that's, I mean, that's what being a human is. You're a storyteller, and you're doing life, and you're amassing stories, right?
Yeah.
That's why we call people friends, because we have
Hmm.
stories to share about those, and
Yeah.
those friends.
The
And
best stories always involve other people. It's not
yeah, and
the
then,
best stories are almost never when you're alone.
well,
I would argue.
if you're alone, you're sharing that alone story with a friend, so you're sharing the
Right.
story, right?
Stories
So
are made to be shared, right?
yeah, they have to be. It's a great way to meet new people with similar values as well.
Hmm.
There's nothing. Well, it's fun when you're in a group of people and you realize somebody hunts, and especially when they do something a little different than you.
Yeah.
So like this guy I told you wants to take me ice fishing, but with spears, like full on
Yeah,
broomstick
like
long.
dark house spearfishing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
pole vault spear fishing, um, which I'm game. That does sound fun.
Hmm.
I've seen some of these guys in like Africa sitting up in a tree, dropping this like what is it, a 20-pound
Spear.
large spear to the back. Like that's
Dudes do that here. I've seen
dude.
videos of
There's
guys
some.
doing that here.
There's
It's
that one
pretty
guy
insane.
that will only hunt grizzlies with his bow. Like some people do some crazy stuff that
Cam
I'm like,
Haynes.
well,
Are you talking about Cam Haynes?
I don't know. I'm just like, I admire you, but I would never do that.
No, thank you.
I think you're so cool in the craziest way, like
Yep.
insane way. But I think as guys we appreciate bigger, better, crazy for a certain reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, we also follow in the footsteps of those that have come before us. So like if you have a grandfather or like great uncles or different things that have I had some amazing great uncles that I admittedly should have spent way more time with. And unfortunately, I didn't realize what I was truly missing until, it was too late, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Just because I was doing other things. I was, living in Hawaii or California and chasing other dreams. And I came back because I had the avenue on my mom's side of the family to always hunt. And
Hmm.
that was easier. Um, I wish I would have tapped in and been really intentional in my younger years, early 20s,
Yeah.
to make a concerted effort, because it wasn't just because they had walls, like literally walls upon walls of amazing deer mounts,
Yeah.
the craziest deer mounts. But they were full Norwegian, four brothers that spoke fluent Norwegian, and they were just truly bros for life on their property down in southern Minnesota slash Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
um, I wish I just would have learned more,
Hmm.
to be honest, in that space. But that's the tradition, right? Because that's where you get with your uncles and your grandpa and your friends,
Yeah.
and you do learn. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, like tap into that.
So for me, like I kind of mentioned in our intro episode, I didn't really get into hunting until I came home from college. But growing up, I had uncles that were pretty big into upland birds, pheasants, grouse, and I went out with them a couple times when I was kind of like 12, kind of like that coming of age time in a person's life. You're about to enter your teenage years, and so I did a little bit of pheasant hunting and loved it at the time, but it just never really took off for me because my dad isn't a hunter. I've taken him out since then, which has been really fun to kind of share this new passion with him, and he's taken to it a little bit. But I didn't really have any major hunting influences in my life before. My maternal grandfather was a pretty avid waterfowl hunter. But by the time I got to a hunting age, he'd long hung up his duck calls and shotgun. So I never got to experience that side of things with him. But the cool thing is after he passed away, when I think when I was 12 actually, so I did get some of his old hunting gear, and to this day I still have some of his old wooden duck calls, and I still wear those on my lanyard. I almost never use them when duck hunting, but to me it's like I'm carrying a small piece of him with me, doing something that I love, knowing that it is also something that he loved at one point too.
Yeah,
And go
may
ahead.
I? Yeah, you're talking about tradition, but even further than that, I can often I'm a history guy, so I love um back to stories, right? I love the History Channel and reading a good book about World War II or
You
something
mean
like
when
that.
it's not ancient aliens?
Ooh, ancient aliens.
I feel like
That's
that's
becoming more mainstream lately.
It sure is. I feel like that's like the number one program that's on History Channel, or at least it used to be.
Oh gosh, the spiritual forces among us. Um, no, but I want to. I think about guys in foxholes who like drew their last breath without anyone around them, like died serving their country. Um, you know, I think about people that are misunderstood. I think about what life was like coming across the United States um, with other people groups here, but you're in like a horse covered wagon. I'm like, how do they even traverse this stuff? Um, and people living, hunting, and gathering way before me. And I think like, what was that like? And
Mhm.
for back to like why I hunt, it's a little bit of you almost feel connected. You do feel connected,
To the
to be honest.
tradition and to
Yeah,
the
of
lifestyle, really.
being out there and something being elusive, but it you needing to catch that well, catch is like what I said catch. You need to harvest. You need to shoot the animal or the game you're after in order to not die. Like
Yeah.
people that need to survive to eat, and I don't even know what berries are poisonous or not poisonous. You know,
Just pick the ones that you know aren't.
Well, I don't even know. I'm just saying, like
Raspberries and blueberries. Just stick to those.
all that knowledge and tradition that's been lost. That weighs heavy. It's very apparent to me, and it's a place in my mind or soul where I am just um, in awe, and I wish I could meet some of these people and throughout history. What was that like tanning, your hides? Obviously, people can do that today, but um,
Not
again,
many
we live
do.
in a world. No, not many do, but we live in a world of means. We
Hmm.
have everything at our fingertips. Even if you are, lack of a better term, like on the poverty line, you're on the poverty line in the privileged world.
Right.
Like, and I'm not knocking that at all. It's just people used to live in these cabins that we see deteriorating, right? These log cabins that
Yeah.
were like from the late 1700s, early 1800s. We find them out there in the wilderness, and
Hmm.
they're collapsed, and you might find some cool bottles or different things like that. That's when you're an explorer when you go hunting too, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's really cool for me. You feel a little bit of like an archaeologist. Like, oh wait, I just stumbled into a old mining shaft that's like right here.
It is
Is there
cool.
anything cool sitting there?
It is cool to go to a place that seems so removed from civilization and be like, I wonder who's been standing in this exact same spot
Yep.
in
Yep.
history.
That you just hit it. That is
whether
it right
whether
there.
it's a Native American from several hundred years ago, or it was one of the first European pioneers making their way across the Great Plains. It's a cool and special feeling to know that there's probably been someone here before, but probably not a lot, depending on how far back you are, you know.
Yeah, we when we were down in South Carolina, I don't even know, back in the bayou the correct term?
Probably not in South Carolina, but
I don't even know where that comes from. I got a little bit of naiveness in me on this topic, but um it was for a bachelor party, and it was great. My brother-in-law was going to marry my sister, and
oh, are you
super
talking about
fun.
Georgia?
Was it Georgia?
Yeah, we were in Savannah.
That's where it was. I'm just quickly touching because we were doing, we're around fishing and crabs and all that stuff down there, which is super fun. I've never been around, pulling up crabs or anything like that before.
With hot dogs.
It's awesome. Um, Ingenuity, my friends. Um, but we went to one of the forts that were down there, and it had the history behind it,
Hmm.
and that's what I'm tapping into. There's so much around us that our society is built upon, and I just want, like, recognizing the day and age that we live in, and that we are hunting, right? And we have amazing rifles and good solid gear that you can throw on and stay warm.
I mean,
Those before us were like throwing on skins of animals and in a hide covered tent.
yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean? It's
you want to talk
nuts.
about how far archery has come too? I mean, we have these modern compound bows and crossbows, for example,
Dude,
that you can shoot
compound bows are brand new.
that you
Like the
can
way that they're constructed now, it's like so recent.
space age materials. You can shoot those bows like accurately out to 100 yards if you're a really good archer. But like the capability is there. Where when I first started hunting archery, I started with a recurve, and to even be proficient at 20 yards, you had to practice all the time, and
Yeah.
there was still no guarantee that it was going to go right where you wanted to. So it is pretty crazy. But yeah, I think following in the footsteps of those who've gone before us is a big reason to hunt. It's a tradition passed down from generation to generation, and not just on this continent, but other continents all around the world too. It's truly hunting is truly a human thing, and the human race would not be alive now today if hunting weren't a thing. And it's our job, if say you're wanting to get into hunting, it is our job to pass down this tradition to those that are going to come after us.
That's where I was going next, because
Yeah.
in Minnesota we have I have no knowledge outside of Minnesota on this topic, but you can go buy a lifelong license for your kid for, what is it, $300, something at that,
It depends on what age you
400,
buy it for them. It gets more expensive the older they get. But
which is, it's amazing. Um, I should totally go do that. My but I don't know. Uh,
I,
I
I
don't know.
say that every year and I never do it.
At the same time, when you're a resident of a state, you get pretty advantageous quote unquote rates
Yeah,
for your tags. So
for sure.
it's not terrible, but let's pivot a little bit forward. Um, you have conservation on here.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that because I know that's one area that I don't dive into from an informational standpoint as much as you do
Hmm.
because I'm a little bit lazy in this. Because you're just knowledgeable, so I'm like, oh, that's
I'm
cool.
the information guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not that I'm not informed. You like to deep dive a little bit more. I'll call a conservation officer or a game warden or stuff like
Hmm.
that. Like I like those conversations and I like looking up regs or different things. But you're my tech sidekick that usually pulls up information while I'm driving or something.
Yep. Conservation, I think, is a really big important reason to hunt. One of the reasons I hunt, because truly the wildlife that we are hunting is a resource. I mean, some people don't like to call it that because it almost makes it seem like they're not living, like they're just some commodity. But the wildlife in this country truly is a resource, and the only way that we have that resource now and in perpetuity in the future is to make sure that we're conserving that resource and that we're being, like you said earlier, that we're being good stewards of the resource we have. And a lot of people don't realize this, especially people who aren't familiar with hunting and the hunting community, but hunting truly is conservation, and it's conservation in two primary ways. First off, hunting is one of the largest funders of conservation and wildlife ecology in North America. And they do this in two different ways. License sales. When you buy a hunting license as a hunter, the money from that license goes directly to your state agency or federal agency, depending on what kind of tag you're buying, to fund um, research and to fund habitat management and all sorts of stuff for the species that you are hunting, or it might go into a general fund and it's spread out across kind of all species or whatever projects your state has going on. But those license sales are very important to keep the populations of your game species healthy, as well as the habitat that they dwell in.
Let me bring a definition in for everyone from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, but also the Natural Resource
This is like a
Conservation Service
this is like a best
.gov.
this is like a
This is
best man speech. The dictionary defines conservation as
well, it yeah, I like having the table set
yeah.
and the foundation set appropriately,
No,
and not
agreed.
everyone I know like on different topics. I'm not always educated, depthfully, and I want to know, okay, what does that even mean? Conservation is the careful maintenance and upkeep of natural resources to prevent it from disappearing. Another definition here is conservation is the practice of taking care of the natural world, including air, water, plants, animals, and other resources to
Hmm.
prevent their destruction, exploitation, or neglect.
Sure.
And very simply, everyone mostly knows that, well, I shouldn't assume. There is a large understanding that the buffalo, aka bison, uh, pretty much were destroyed off the continent of North America, which some say 80 million strong at one point with 60
I think
million.
the number was 30 million at one point at its
Let's
peak.
I'll do a little
Yeah, why
Google
don't you
about
can
that,
you
but
Chris, can you fact check that for me? I
let me
think
let me get to the fact
yeah,
checkers.
I believe if I remember correctly, that number they estimated at their peak was around 30 million. But then there was very few wildlife and hunting regulations at the beginning of the 20th century, or the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. And at that time, it was legal to hunt animals and sell wild game meat and other products such as skins, furs, that kind of stuff. That was all legal. So there was something called market hunting, which um, North America's wildlife was nearly hunted to extinction. Many of the species, believe it or not, the white-tailed deer, which is the most widespread North American wild game animal, other than maybe the black bear, almost extinct. But now it is one of the most populous game animals in North America. Chris?
So in the 1500s, and this is coming from um, Flat Creek Inn in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I'm doing a little hotel thing
Okay.
here. I could pull some other stuff, but I thought this one was fun because it had a nice article. The tagline was the bison from 30 million to 325
Yeah,
in 1884,
that's
back up to
crazy.
500,000 today. There's a little timeline here. In the 1500s, an estimated 30 to 60 million bison roam North America, mostly in the Great
Yeah,
Plains.
truth is they just don't
And
know. But
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. There's a photo from the 1870s that I've seen where there's a pile of American bison skulls
I've seen that picture.
waiting to be ground into fertilizer. I'm pretty sure it's on Wikipedia if you just Google bison, um, but it's 3 to 4 stories high with a dude standing on top of just a mountain of skulls.
Hmm.
This is how um, many of them, like, we can't even fathom, like, that's a big number. But the settlement comes across North America, and it's just like killing everything,
Yeah,
specifically bison. But an estimated 2 million bison are killed on the southern plains in 1 year in 1870. And you have to think about how many people were actually here during that time to accomplish that type of destruction. So that fast forward, 1884, the bison population reaches its lowest point. Around 325 wild bison are left in the United States, including only 24 in Yellowstone.
yeah, it's crazy.
That's nuts. So, due
Hmm.
to conservation efforts, which is what our topic is, uh, bison increase back up to they get back up to about 1,000 in the United States in 1910. So it took 1884 to 1910 to go from 300 to like 325 back to 1,000.
Essentially tripled the population. It's really slow.
Slow growth there.
Yeah.
Um, and then back you flash forward now to 2017 because we've done a good job on that. Today, there are over 500,000 bison in the U.S., including 5,000 in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And in Minnesota, we could talk about some reintroduced animals back here: the timber wolf, the turkey.
Hmm.
We have an elk herd in northern Minnesota,
Yep.
but it's small. But we've seen some animals thrive from
Hmm.
conservation, and then you get into a little bit of the controversy. Okay, the wolf population's a little too ferocious.
Yeah, it's above objective, at least in Minnesota. I don't want to get into the whole wolf thing because that's a huge controversy across the country, especially in the past few years, especially with like
Yep.
introducing wolves into Colorado and that kind of
But
stuff.
wolves do destroy herds. Like so they are predators and they survive well. Um, but conservation is what we're talking about, and
Yeah.
it is simply to prevent and make sure that there's the destruction, exploitation, and neglect of one of these resources or one of these animals
Hmm.
um, doesn't happen, and that's super important and fun to be a part of. You said one time that when we were out west, all this is your land, Chris, and I was like, I didn't understand what that meant, but public land because you pay taxes and you're a part of America and as a citizen. Um, I just like to invite everyone listening that's yours. It's like your backyard, and you should be walking through it. You should go look and be a steward of it, and be a conservationist, and call out people that are, um, not. We see guys all the time bending the rules or parking on the side of a road. They're not. They're not being a conservationist. They're being an opportunist, and it's annoying because when you're playing by the rules and you're not supposed to bring a motorized vehicle in a certain area or something like that, and
Hmm.
somebody's sneaking in thinking they can do that, it ruins it for everyone. um, so I just encourage you, just play by the rules, be warm to the conservation officers. And
And be warm with with each other as well. If you meet other hunters
yep.
out there, that's a big part of it too. We are a big
Yeah.
community, and unfortunately, a community that is shrinking statistically. But we need to be warm with each other as hunters as well, and be welcoming. I did want to touch on one more funding source that I think is probably the most important in wildlife, in terms of wildlife management, and that's the Robertson-Pittman Act. That was passed back in the 1930s, and essentially what that act did was make it's a excise tax that is put it's an excise tax that is put on all hunting goods, including firearms and ammo. So every time that you buy a box of ammo, I can't remember what, I want to say it's 11%. I think that's the number. There's an 11% excise tax on that box of ammo, and that 11% goes directly to wildlife conservation in North America. And so, I mean, it's not just hunters funding wildlife conservation. It's recreational shooters and stuff too, especially with guns and ammo. But if you buy a backpack, like a hunting backpack, or just any of these sporting goods that we all rely on for our hunting, that is directly funding wildlife conservation as well. And so hunters have led the way in conservation of wildlife in North America. And it's honestly, it's a really cool thing to be a part of. And like Chris said, it's like a privilege to be a part of it. And then we also, as hunters, we're also involved in other aspects, not just financial, when it comes to stewarding this resource in this country. But hunting is also used by states and by the federal government as a game management tool. They use us to control populations of game, make sure they're not getting over set objective, and those objectives are set by local biologists that are experts in those areas for those species. And then also, usually when you harvest an animal, you have to report that harvest to the state agency, and they use those harvest numbers to be used for population models and research. So it's a really cool thing to be a part of. Not only are you kind of almost like a citizen scientist, but you're also helping fund the conservation of the very animals you're hunting.
Yeah. And then just an aspect of that too is I'll just encourage, if you're looking to get into a hunt and you're going to get out in the field, we live in a like culture now where everyone has their phone in their hand constantly, like waiting at the doctor's office. Just look up and look around the room. Everyone has their phone. You see people pulling up to a stoplight and they're picking up their phone in the car, waiting for it to turn green. Um, it's it has done something to the psyche of humans, not probably in a good way at all. And there's a ton of data and research, especially on kids and developmental issues. But with that said, talking about being a conservationist, a steward, looking back in history and wondering who's been there before you. I used to I grew up in the non cell phone age before, and I remember cell phones coming and Facebook coming and the internet, all that stuff blowing up. But I remember I used to have to like memorize my buddy's phone number, and I'd have to punch it in and
Those were the
call him.
days.
Hey, is Micah there? Can you? Hey, Micah, can you play? Um, those were the days because you'd stay out all day, and my parents would just be like, "Hey, be home by dark," or um.
Be home
So
by
I'm
the time the
applying,
street light comes on.
yeah, I'm applying all of that larger thought there when to go out on a hunt. Put for the love, for your own well-being, like to experience something new because you'll experience your phone every other day of your life.
Hmm.
Put your phone down and away. Even leave it in the truck if you don't need it, if you don't need your license on there or something, or just pack it away in a zip bag or something like that, and be still in nature.
Hmm.
Look at the world around you, listen to what's around you, look at the stinking reeds when you're standing in knee-high water and the little spider weaving its web. We are a part of this ecosystem. We are the most intelligent uh, creation on this planet, and I truly believe, like, you have. Um, I'm not bashful at all. Like, I'm a Christian, and I love the Lord, and that's me because the older I get, the more I realize wow, I need help. The more I realize like um I need grace and I'm not going to get it right and I can't do everything. I can't be perfect and I need somebody, and everybody has battles inside their minds. Mental health is like front and center in our culture today, especially in America. Um and detoxing, like I mentioned about that, being with buddies, you just don't need to be on your phone. I'm just trying to encourage everyone who's listening to this and getting into this, or maybe has has been hunting for a while and you're just listening to this. um, it's such an opportunity to be intentional and present
Mhm.
for the good of yourself, like your spiritual and mental health. um, Watching a spider weave its web while you're waiting for ducks to come in is strange to talk about, maybe in a certain way, but it's magical at the same time. Like, you are part of a world where I can't stand people who litter. Like, a person throws out something in front of me where I'm driving, I'm like, I live here too. You can, like this is my road too, bro. It drives me nuts, but I know not everybody's at that same place. um that's okay. I desire to have that more apparent, but that's what the hunting community is. That, to me,
Yeah.
being a part of that is elevating yourself and learning about yourself and understanding in a deeper way about yourself. And yeah, is that the same for you, Pete? Like, what, when you look at this, the nature and spirituality, or the
Mhm.
mental state of what you get or give, what's that? Talk to me about that.
So for me, yeah, I can speak. I will agree with you on this being in the stillness of nature. Like, unfortunately, these days, we've experienced this the past few years. More and more of the places you go, even if you're getting 5 miles from a parking area, or you're getting back into the mountains, cell phone reception is reaching into places it never has before, and so it really is hard to get truly unplugged in a lot of places. Yeah, we've experienced it in places where, like, what? Wow, I have 2 bars here. How? It's crazy. But um, yeah, I think it's really important to turn off your phone and to detox from that, because for me, and like you, Chris, obviously you know this, but I'm a Christian too. I'm a Christ follower. It's a very important part of my life, the most important part of my life. And I have found very few times in my life that I feel closer to the creator of the universe than when I'm spending time in his creation, not being distracted by the things of this world, or like this of everyday life, emails, work, texts, um, you know, drama with whoever, whatever's going on in my normal life back home. Obviously that stuff is all still important too, but when I'm out in the field, when I'm out hunting, I have one singular mission. And when I fix my mind on that mission, but still take time to just take in everything I'm experiencing around me, little things that I wouldn't typically notice, a slight breeze that you feel coming across your face, little things like that you don't really think about in your normal everyday. But when you're hunting, it's like, oh, that is a westerly wind. My wind is blowing directly where I want to go. I can't go this way because now my wind is bad. And if there's an animal up there, it might smell me. You have to be so much more aware of your surroundings because, like you said, you're entering into an ecosystem, and the animal you're hunting is trying to survive, and they're really, really good at it, and you are entering into their ecosystem and you're trying to outsmart an animal that lives here. And there's just something about being in that setting and experiencing, whether it's a place you've been before or a place you haven't been to, but experiencing just that stillness, just getting away from the noise of life every day back home. That's what I think. That's probably one of my favorite things about going out into these places, is just you stop talking and you just listen, and it's just nothing except for the sound of birds, or a slight breeze, or if you're lucky you hear
It's
an elk
it's usually
bugle.
just the breeze. It's usually just the breeze.
Yeah, because it's pretty much always windy where you hunt. But uh, But
Well, I'm just like we're usually waiting. You're usually, glassing.
mhm.
You're set up. You
or
know,
or even in a duck boat, just hearing the water lapping against the boat. It's just
hmm
it's there's something so calming and soothing about that.
or the
And
giant oversized beaver swing right behind you, not even a foot
right,
away from your
you can
boat.
reach out and grab it by the tail. But it's so cool to be surrounded by God's creation in that way. We don't get to experience that very often in everyday life. Like, if you slow down and take a minute, even if you're in your backyard, you can appreciate it, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, everything in life is typically demanding something from you
Hmm.
and valuing you in a certain way. There's expectations. So in a way, like hunting is kind of like a prayer closet,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Hmm.
because when you recognize your need for water, for one, you recognize your need for taking care of your body and your feet, or if it's cold, your face, your hands, making sure you got the fire to keep you warm at night, a good shelter. You realize pretty quick that I mean, if you're seriously gotten into the backcountry, you can die out here pretty easy.
Oh yeah, for
You could
sure.
fall right off a cliff or whatever it is.
It's
So you
very
are,
real.
yeah, it's survival. But yeah, it's so sobering to just living a life. You're present. You're
Hmm.
present on this in this place called Earth, and even reaching down and putting dirt in your hand and just feeling the dirt. Um, you just don't normally do that in life. You wake up in the morning, you might see sunrises when you're going to work, but you're not sitting there just sitting watching the sun slowly warm the sky.
Hmm.
And then you see the world around you wake up, and then little teeny birds, cute birds, come flying up and land right next to you because if you're not moving most of the time, and they're just living their life, and it's magical.
It
So,
is.
yeah, with that kind of like culmination of all we've talked about, do you have anything further before kind of wrap this up?
No, I think just remember, for everyone listening, that there's a lot of reasons to hunt. We listed some. There, you could probably come up with a million more. And just like I said at the very beginning of all this, everybody's why is maybe going to be slightly different. But I think it's important to end this conversation with a question. And it's a question that you, the listener, I want you to really ruminate on and really think about, because this series, the four W's, is meant to really build questions in your mind as you get into your hunting journey. And I think the question of why is extremely important, because if your why is, I don't want to use the word weak. That's not the right. That's not exactly what I'm looking for. But if you don't know why you're hunting, I'm not sure you're going to enjoy it a whole lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're tapping into being fulfilled. Like,
Yeah.
what's your expectation? Do you have a
Hmm.
goal, and then can you attain that goal in a reasonable fashion, without you know causing blisters all over your feet
Yeah.
because you decided to not prepare and hiked 56 miles?
Because while hunting is super fun, and for me it's really fulfilling, it's not for everyone. It's really not. And also, I don't want anyone to think for a second that it's easy, because it's not. You're gonna fail probably a lot more than you're gonna succeed. That's just
hmm
that's just truth. Um, And so I guess I'll just end it with this, Chris, unless you have any other notes. But the question I want you to think about is exactly what we've been talking about. Why do you want to hunt? Like, why is hunting something you're interested in? Or if you're already a hunter, why do you hunt? What's your why? And it
We'd love to hear from you.
yeah.
Reach out to us on social, comment, email
Hmm.
us, subscribe, share with your friends. We're just trying to build into this community, and welcome, arms open wide, welcome your thoughts and comments and conversation.
Yep. On the next episode, we're going to talk about what should I hunt, which is also going to be a super fun episode just to talk about, because I mean, what wouldn't I want, what don't I want to hunt, pretty much. But we'll get into that in the next episode. But super thankful that you're joining us here, and listening to us talk and ramble and tell stories and whatnot. We really hope that this landed for you. We really hope that this was valuable for you. Again, if you're whatever platform you're listening on, give this show a follow. Give us a like, leave us a review, 5 stars if you enjoyed it, and we're super excited just to continue to share with you. So thanks for joining us. Peter signing off.
See you later, everyone.